Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the FIA Formula Regional European Championship ahead of qualifying 2, with Group B getting us underway for day 2 of the race portion of the weekend. Slightly cooler temperatures to what we saw yesterday. There's grey clouds smattered, and we have had a drop of rain. 19 degrees here in the air, slightly low on track temperature, so the drivers are going to have to try and ensure that they get the tyres warmed up appropriately. Shouldn't be too difficult at a track that is known for its high degradation, as they all begin to fight for track position very early on. And what a day it was yesterday for RSGP, a 1-2 finish after the win for Yuki Sano, his first victory on European soil after taking a first European pole position, which meant a great deal to the Japanese talent, of course, well and truly supported by Toyota as they continue to try, that is the Japanese drivers, to make their mark on European circuits, wherever they may be. And RSGP now with a huge stranglehold on the Teams Championship. Of course, coming in as the championship leaders, they won the title last season as far as the Teams Championship is concerned, but now even more so, with a high levy of points going their way. 3 of their drivers finishing inside the top 4, with Rashid El Dahiri finishing in 2nd place and Emmanuel Olivieri down in 4th. But certainly delighted with the fact that he managed to achieve the rookie race win. He has been absolutely clinical and consistent, and that has been the mark of his series and his run, and he'll be hoping for a big one here today as well. Kier Nakamura Berta, as well as Sebastian Weldon, who was pitched around yesterday, if you remember, coming out of turn 2 through towards turn 3. It wasn't really the direction Seb Weldon was hoping to go in terms of his race. He was battling with Marcus Sater, and it all seemed to fall apart for him as the G4 Racing team, who have experienced a rough ride this season, featuring at the very bottom of the Teams Championship. Well, they managed to scoop up double points after a sterling performance from Sakir Al-Maserji and Marcus Sater, both of them landing P6 and P7. Not quite for Rahim Alabai, who was knocking on the door outside the top 10, but nonetheless wasn't able to penetrate and get into the points-paying positions. George Morgan here in the commentary box, back again to bring you all the action as Group B continue to thunder around this circuit. Let's give you a rundown as to who is taking part in this session. In Group B, we've got Alex Ninovic from Rodin, Razor Seaworthy, his teammate, who finished on the podium as well. 3rd place for the British driver after starting on the front row alongside Yuki Sano, setting the fastest lap in Group B yesterday. And Matteo Giaccardi also in this group, with Andrea Kostic, Sakir Al-Maserji, Gabriel Gomez, Miguel Costa, Alexander Abagazzava, and Jan Sharovsky, as well as Jules Roussel, Giovanni Maschio, Emanuele Olivieri, as well as Kier Nakamura Berta, who just about managed to garner 1 solitary point at the close of yesterday. There were some concerns when he was summoned to the stewards post-race yesterday for not replacing his wheel into the chassis. He'll be relieved that it hasn't cost him anything in terms of points or placings. Instead, it was a fine. But a little reminder for the drivers, they must ensure to follow the safety rules that are applied here in the FIA Formula Regional European Championship, as they have been over so many years. Thomas Olchemanis also features with Salim Hanna, Prema, with all 3 drivers in this group, much like Rodin, with all 3 of their drivers in this group as well. It's going to be a very tantalising fight as the initial lap times come in. Ninovic, top of the shop with a 1:48.359. Hope you're all keeping well on this fine weekend. Obviously, it is looking still a little bit gloomy out there across the circuit. I'm just peering at the commentary box and looking at the skies. The cloud cover is quite significant, though it looks like the grey is starting to diminish now, and we are getting to a point where some pearly white clouds are starting to show. So hopefully, as we make our way through the course of the day, we'll see that dampness disappear, and we'll eventually catch some sun rays, as we have been on the run-in through the course of the weekend. The sun has certainly been shining as far as G4 Racing are concerned. Obviously, I mentioned Sakir Al-Maserji scoring some much-needed points, not just for his championship, but also for G4 Racing, much like Marcus Sater, the Norwegian, as G4 have spent a grand deal of time pitched at the bottom of the team's championship table. And obviously with the points levy, with Marcus Sater picking up 6, Sakir Al-Masurji with his highest accrued number of points this season. Of course, prior to this, all his points were scored in the previous round at Monza after a series of nil-point scoring rounds at Spielberg, Zandvoort, Spa. He would arrive in at Monza after not scoring in the first race, managing to clinch 2 points in race 2 and a solitary point in race 3. And he's just collected 8 points now off the back of yesterday, putting him on 11. And in the process, leapfrogging Kabir Anurag, Miguel Costa, Andrea Dupé, Jules Roussel, Kai Darianani. And should find himself just behind his teammate Marcus Sater in the championship, who now moves into 17-point territory, but leapfrogged by Thomas Dolce-Manis, who's on 21 now, as Emanuele Olivieri pulls together a 140.836. I'm expecting the lap times to diminish as opposed to what we saw yesterday. Just to give you guys a ballpark as to where we should be operating, we saw 137s in yesterday's session. So I would firmly anticipate something similar. The pole time from yesterday was a 137.760 for Yuki Sano. There's now the ever-improving deltas, and now put on show. Ninovic, he's one of them, and incidentally converting that to what looked to be the first fastest time, but actually toppling down to third, with Olivieri still in second, Shikani the third, Siwerthen now the fastest man on track, the first to break into the 130s as well, with a 139.426 after a purple final sector. We now have Alexander Abakazava now making his way through the final corner out of turn 14 in the MP Motorsport machine, and goes fastest of anybody, 138.693. We're now in the ballpark of where we were in free practice, which witnessed Emanuele Olivieri laying down the fastest practice time throughout the weekend, and I know that he's yearning for an improved qualifying performance, as are many drivers out there on track. And I'm looking at the likes of Kian Nakamura, Berta, and a Prema just going off track there ever so slightly, I think. Well, it could only either be Salim Hanna or Thomas Dolce-Manis, because this is Kian Nakamura, Berta, who managed to thunder in a couple of PBs on this particular run, as has Salim Hanna and Thomas Dolce-Manis, but I'm guessing that one of them is going to significantly drop time off the back of that run over the curb, as we now watch as Kian Nakamura Berta crosses the stripe and will indeed look to progress, but unfortunately I don't think he did, because he's down in 14th still. It was a 138, but I believe his track time was deleted after track limits at turn 4. Salim Hanna has just popped into second fastest with a 139.337. It's still Alexander Abakazava at the moment. So Sakir Al-Masurji, the man who went fastest in FP2, point scorer yesterday, his best performing race so far in this championship. And G4 Racing looking to grab this circuit by the horns and goes provisionally fastest. Sakir Al-Masurji, that's a 138.596. That's a little bit slower than his fastest time in FP2. FP2 was a 138.466 for Al-Masurji, which is just over a 10th and a quarter quicker than his current best time in qualifying. But still plenty of time left, and the difference being, obviously, the drivers will need to ensure they put the steps in place to, well, encourage the grip levels on their Pirelli tyres. As we now see Razor Siwerthen, who really lit things up in yesterday's qualifying session. Of course, a rarity, really, not to see Group B landing the big blows. Like, I did actually ask the drivers, I did wonder perhaps just due to the sheer temperatures, it becomes that much harder if you're the second group to actually improve on Group A's time, because effectively there's only so much heat you can apply to the Pirelli tyres in themselves. So really, I mean, there was not much of a disparity between Group A and Group B. In fact, you could argue perhaps the track was perhaps a little too hot for Group B yesterday. And we have seen those track temperatures skyrocket in around the 50s throughout the weekend. Of course, it's a very busy schedule here in Budapest, as now we see Razor Seaworthen come across the line, and we'll begin yet another lap. But elsewhere, personal best in the first sector for Emanuele Olivieri, 36.0, coming out of Sector 1. Andrea Kostic also landing a personal best first sector over his last lap, but it didn't go quite to plan in the sequential sectors. But regardless of not achieving pole, the front row start for Razor Seaworthen, best qualifying performance of the season so far. And for Rodin Motorsport, inside their first season in this championship, it is such an important moment for them to really stamp their authority. And speaking of stamping your authority, Emanuele Olivieri doing just that after going purple. Inside the middle sector is in fact a 10th recorded faster. Ahead of Alma Sergi coming out of Sector 2 is Sector 3 just as kind. Emanuele Olivieri, fastest now with a 1:38.404. Quickest of the bunch by nearly 0.2 of a second, and there's more time to find in that final sector as well. I would firmly expect others to start rearing their head too. Salim Hanna, who was so despondent yesterday. I was talking to him in the paddock yesterday, and he was so despondent with the performance he was finding in the car. And he's hoping that they can unlock something. He's just gone 6th fastest as the Colombian. Of course, we've had some sensational Colombian drivers come through in the past. Look no further than Juan Pablo Montoya, as Alex Ninovic now pops into second. Rodin with additional presence now inside the top 3 as Seaworthen goes 3rd fastest as well. So the British team starting to raise the stakes. It's Olivieri, Ninovic, Seaworthen, your top 3. Alma Sergi with a personal best inside the middle, but we have got a purple middle sector for Alexander Abakazava, the man in the MP Motorsport machine, looking to stand and deliver for the Dutch unit as he now storms up towards the line. This is a very nice time for Abakazava, and indeed it will be a good time. 1:38.162. Very competitive if we consider the conditions out there right now. As we said at the top of the show, it's not overly warm out there at all. Probably the coolest we've had it all weekend. Stood at 19 degrees in the air when walking into the paddock. And it's Alexander Abakazava after a purple middle sector and a PB in Sector 1. And he stands tall at the highest point in this Group B Q2 session. But we'll see whether anyone can reply. Alex Ninovic was working on a personal best inside our middle sector, but I think going for a slow run to prepare for yet another lap. His teammate, though, Seaworthen, has PB'd the middle sector with a 35.2. So he's finding time at the moment, but we are coming into the final minutes, and I would imagine that there are drivers now looking to sight their next lap, or put the preparations in place at the very least for their next lap, because we are inside the final minute. So it is essentially the last chance saloon. Emanuele Olivieri's just gone and PB'd the first sector as well, so prepare for the crescendo, everybody. I'm sure many of you have your predictions as to how things are going to fare here at Hungaroring, but the big players, many of them not featuring up at the top end. If you look at your Seb Weldons, of course, teammates of Alexander Abakazava, as well at the same time, Ken Nakamura Berta, who, despite Prama's tough appearances at this track in the past, they're still working hard to try and garner something, especially after Freddie Slater's victory in race 2 last year, as Emanuele Olivieri continues to thunder in the PBs. He's personal bested the second sector as well. Here he is now, coming through the final corner at turn 14. Purple in the first sector for Thomas Stolchemanis. Prama now answering the call. Here comes RHGP's very own Monza hero, Olivieri, quickest with a 1:38.137. The benchmark continues to lower, but there are improving times across this grid. Thomas Stolchemanis, who lit up the first sector, is in fact fastest in the speed trap, along with Salim Hanna, his teammate Miguel Costa, and Alex Ninovic as well, who's also PBing the first 2 sectors as well. Personal bests in sectors 1 and 2 for Ken Nakamura Berta. They're all coming in. Nakamura Berta goes 3rd fastest. That's a little better from yesterday, but can he stay there? Stolchemanis, P6, an improvement, but Alex Ninovic He's the next man to try and rear his head for Rodin, much like his teammate Seaworthen yesterday, not quite able to do so. Slots in behind Nakamura, Berta in fourth fastest, 97 thousandths across the top four. That is absolutely sensational. Purple though in the middle. Abakazava's not done yet. He's gone and purpled the middle sector. We'll have to wait and see what he can deliver. Sakirama Sergi also PBing the middle sector, as is Jules Roussel, Miguel Costa. They're all hard at work right now, but just look at this lap here from Alexander Abakazava, who's going to look to try and stick it at least on the front row, maybe stick it on provisional pole. Here he comes now, representing Dutch unit MP Motorsport. It's Alexander Abakazava with a 1:37.912, the only man in this session in the 1:37s, and that cripples the rest of the field. Fastest by over 2 1/4 tenths. Absolutely brilliant. Take a bow. Alexander Abakazava. A brilliant display. Was knocking on the door for big performances yesterday, but he has gone and put it one step further. 1:37.912 for him. That is absolutely massive. Emanuele Olivieri still fast, much like he was in FP2 yesterday, and will be on the second row. Ahead of Ken Nakamura, Berta, Alex Ninovic, Sakirama Sergi, yet another impressive performance ahead of Jan Sharovsky, as well as Gabriel Gomez, Reza Seaworthen, Thomas Stolchamanis, Miguel Costa, Salim Hanna still not able to find the pace. Ahead of Giovanni Maschio, though, who's ahead of Jules Roussel, Matteo Giaccardi in 14th, ahead of Andrea Kostic down in 15th. Of course, Emanuele Olivieri, fastest rookie driver, currently leading the rookie championship as well. But the time to beat, the 1:37.912 to decide pole position. It's going to be a thrilling affair, folks. Of course, we still have Group A to head out. And like we mentioned, with the weather differing quite dramatically from yesterday, we weren't actually forecast rain, to be honest with you. But it does give the drivers clairvoyance to, I suppose, have the ability to manage the conditions more effectively. It puts less stress on the tyre compound as well at the same time, so perhaps this enables them to get more out of the car, though I appreciate we're not seeing as many 1:37s as we did see yesterday morning, but nonetheless, there was one man who was able to do it, and that's the man at the top of Group B's session. Over 2 tenths quicker than Emanuele Olivieri. But now it's the turn of Group A to take to the Budapest circuit in a bid for pole position. Will it be Yuki Sano looking to go back-to-back? I mean, you never know. It could be the turn of MP Motorsport if Sebastian Weldon, who is going to be featuring in this Group A session, he'll be looking to bounce back, I'm sure, after the spin yesterday. No question he'll have his sights set on a potential front row and, better yet, a pole position. The last time he took pole was back at Zandvoort. So what it does mean as well at the same time, that if we do see Alexander Abakazava top the entire qualifying session, it'll be our 7th different pole sitter this season. We had Ken Nakamura Berta at Red Bull Ring to kick things off, Seb Weldon at Zandvoort in qualifying 1, Alexander Munoz in qualifying 1 at Spa, Max Popov qualifying 2 at Spa, Emanuele Olivieri race ahead of race 2 at Monza, obviously stuck it on pole in qualifying 2, and of course yesterday Yuki Sano. And if Abakazava does walk away with it, that means we will have yet another pole sitter to add to the stats. That is truly sensational. Just goes to show how competitive this season is, with drivers coming from far and wide, various parts of not just Europe, but the Middle East, and also from the Asian islands. We So Yuki Sano coming in from Japan. We've seen some great drivers come from that part of the world in the past. With Toyota offering a fabulous level of support for him, and he mentioned that with us. Of course, was a runner-up in the Super Formula Lights Championship. So you could argue that grand performances were expected from Yuki Sano. It's more about getting experience on a European racetrack. So to make his first appearance at Budapest and show off what he can do, it truly is a very impressive performance on his part. The question is, can he do it again? There's Kabir Anorak, who was also in the heat of battle yesterday. Walked away with 9th place, picking up 2 points. He's now on 5. And plants himself just ahead of Miguel Costa in the Drivers' Championship. Zen Ricci, who was part of the Aston Martin fold, as a junior driver for them. He also was hunting down after the points-paying positions. But I think one thing we've come to know from yesterday is just how tight and constrained this Hungarian racetrack really is. They do declare it Monaco without walls, and for good reason. Home, of course, to the Hungarian Grand Prix, with the spectacular developments that have been laid down at this race circuit, giving fans immense access to some really stunning views, with the sun as it rises coming across the crest of the mountains and then setting later on as well. Really is a beautiful scenic position to harness a racetrack. And if you do get the opportunity to come here, I highly recommend standing on the new terraces just outside the media centre, because you get a view of the entirety of the third sector. It is absolutely spectacular. It's now Group A, I should say, make their way around the circuit here in qualifying 2. Kai Darianani, currently the fastest man in that first sector. There is the 23 of Rahim Alabai, who came a little unstuck yesterday, was holding on to P13 for a long period of time during the course of the race, eventually fell foul. A few drivers were caught in yesterday's battle. Of course, Francisco Macedo was also penalised after jumping the start yesterday. That was our only penalty that was actually handed out as far as an in-race issue was concerned. There were a couple of investigations. We mentioned, of course, Matteo Giaccardi, who ended up onto the grass. There was some question marks by the stewards as they investigated it as to whether Giovanni Masco played a role in Giaccardi's venture into the grass, but obviously, as deemed from the replays that we witnessed, of course, yesterday, folks, there wasn't any contact between them, and therefore Giaccardi going off via his own volition as Kabir Anorak sets the purple pace in the middle sector. No representative times just yet, though. It will come to pass eventually. Kai Darianani immediately sends his car to the top. Maximilian Popov just behind him. Of course, the pole sitter back at Spa. After Sano's victory yesterday as well, folks, I know I was talking about the variances in pole sitters we've had. We've also had 8 different winners in 11 races now, which is remarkable. And we are, of course, factoring in the sprint races too, but there's only one man who has taken a sprint race win this season, and he's taken 2 of them. That is Rashid El Dahiri, who now with the no longer with the Prema team, with the RHGP team. Very much in contention for the title this season. Finished 8th in the standings last year. Embracing the car or the team that would usually paint their cars all in red, but of course, remember, it's a Yas Heat livery that we've come to recognise for Rashid El Dahiri. He's now currently 7th fastest as he plants his initial times in. Dion Gouda, the reigning rookie champion, goes to the top of the timing screens now with a 1:49.364, and it's a shame that we haven't seen more from Dion Gouda. Of course, many pundits, many people that tune in and embrace this championship, watch it, they all believe that Dion Gouda could have played a pivotal role this season for Van Amersfoort Racing, and you can make a claim and state that it's been a little underwhelming for him so far this season. He has, of course, had his own string of bad luck, but it just has not fallen into place for the young man. He's still working away to try and garner the big points. Did not walk away with a single point at Monza, and neither at Spa. His last points that he accrued were at Zandvoort. He finished P10 in race 2 and 9th in race 1 that weekend. Didn't have a terrible start to the season at Spielberg either, because it was back-to-back P6s in both races 1 and races 2 and races 3, I should say. Rachel Lahiri, though, purple now, and the representative laps are starting to now raise their head above the parapet. 3.7, nearly 3.8 up on his, well, up on the current best time. Marcus Sater lands at 144.4, as now Rachel Lahiri ushers in the first 130 in this group, a 139.488. Purple in the final 2 sectors. Yuki Sano, his teammate, yesterday's race winner, goes into second. Would love nothing more than to go back-to-back for Thibaut de Merindol's team. And much like they were yesterday, they are 1 and 2 in this group. Remember, they've got Emanuele Olivieri, who managed to go second fastest in Group B session that we, of course, just witnessed, so therefore he will, regardless of who the pole sitter is, feature on that second row of the grid. So now Zenri Chi comes out of the hairpin, and turn 13 back on the power as he looks to pivot the Tatus T326. And now up towards the line to register his first proper lap, and indeed will go fastest will the Aston Martin Junior, but very quickly snatched away by Alexandre Munoz, who lays down a 138.6 of his own. We're creeping further and further downwards. Purple first sector for Rashid Al Lahiri already. Purple middle sector for Mace the Ace, or should I say Francisco Macedo. As Munoz still holds the benchmark. It's 9/100ths of a second between those two, as Macedo announces himself on the scene. Mace the Ace indeed on top. As now Rashid Al Lahiri, after setting the purple first sector, comes across the line after lighting up green in the middle, goes fastest once more. 138.1 from the Sprint King himself. Yuki Sano still remains now in second, but with a 38.2. R-Ace clinging on to the 1 and 2 spots in this group, but they know that they have to bring that delta downwards more so. If they want to challenge for pole, it's got to be a 137, because it's Alexander Abakazava with a 137.912 that currently sits provisional pole at the moment for MP Motorsport. So far, Seb Weldon, his teammate, down in P8 with a 138.698. Currently registered. We've got a purple middle sector here for Kabir Anurag, the Alpine Junior, now coming in to join the party. We'll wait and see what he can bring to the table as Zenri Chi moves into third. Kabir Anurag does go quickest. Just look at this, 138.139 from the Alpine Junior. Brilliant lap from Kabir Anurag. But still, we need more. A 137 required. 2 PBs for Noah Lyle in his first weekend. The young man from Perth, Australia, featuring in GB3 last season. Moving into European racing with us here in the FIA Formula Regional European Championship. He's just moved into 12th spot with a 138.9 of his own, but needs a lot more than that if he wants to challenge the front end. The driver's now starting to settle down, because we are creeping into the final 5 minutes of this qualifying session. The current gap between the top 2 is 42 thousandths of a second, and the top 3 all within 76 thousandths of one another. And Rino Francot, who unfortunately for him was disqualified after not, well, he qualified with an unconforming part on his car, therefore had to drop to the very back of the grid. Didn't even finish the race yesterday. Of course, you have to serve a minimum of 18 laps, 90% of the race to be classified in a race in this championship. And unfortunately for Francot, he didn't do that, so therefore he was deemed not classified at the end of the race when the checkered flag came out. Rashid Al Lahiri purple inside the first sector, and that could be oh so critical. PBs elsewhere as well. We've got Francisco Macedo green. We've got purple middle sector for Sebastian Weldon. Well, this would be a courageous effort for Seb Weldon to bounce back after the spin yesterday. Looking to reignite the fire that we saw at Zandvoort in round 2 of this season's championship. Here he comes now, Sebastian Weldon. Storms to the top, and that is a great time, but still yet to find that 1:37 to contest against his MP Motorsport teammate. It was a purple middle sector that brought him to the dance, but Rashid Al Lahiri, purple in the first sector, green in the middle, looking very quick on this lap and very nearly 2/10 quicker than the lap that was laid down by Francisco Macedo, who's currently fastest. Here comes Rashid Al Lahiri, fastest now, and that will indeed pip the fastest time set by Alexander Abgzava. It's a 1:37.639. Rashid Al Lahiri on provisional pole with 3 minutes still to go. It is not over yet, though. Not by any means, not by a long shot. Rino Francot with a green first sector. We got green sectors elsewhere at the same time. Alexandre Munoz showing a reasonable level of pace. Dion Gouda improves to 9th spot. Unfortunately loses time in that final sector. The first 2 sectors were green for the British driver. Also representing his home nation of India at the same time. The vibrant talent is Dion Gouda. Andrea Dupé moves into 9th spot as well. We've got personal bests again creeping in though for Francot, who has managed to green the middle sector. Here's Zenri Chi, who is currently operating in that 8th place. Here is the Aston Martin Junior. It's been a very strong visit this weekend, but no improvement off the back of a difficult final sector, which sees him 2/10 outside of the scope of an improvement. We'll just take a look at this moment here for Zenri Chi, and yes, there was the time loss right there, coming in at the hairpin. That's not the first time we've seen that either. And like I said at the top of the show, we did have a little drop of rain this morning. It was quite heavy, actually. Certainly not the heaviest we've seen at Hungaroring in the past. I hark back to, I think it was 2023, where the clouds pretty much dumped an entire, I mean, I don't know how I can quantify it for you, but there was lots of water, put it that way. It was quite the storm. And it can happen out of nowhere, seemingly, here at Budapest. But we were quite fortuitous in the sense that the rain had dissipated quite early at the start of the day. We've got around 1 final minute to come here in Group A session in qualifying 2. It's Rashid Al Lahiri, Francisco Macedo. Francisco Macedo, who arrives in for Van Amersfoort Racing from Braga in Portugal. The 18-year-old who competed in the Middle Eastern Championship at the start of the year. Did some F3 runnings in, of course, in the feeder series leading up to this point in Formula Regional. Italian F4 as well the year before that, in 2024, and also competing in Spanish F4 the time before that. Looking to grace P1 with his presence here this time. Slight lock-up there by the looks of it from Sebastian Weldon, but he's purple in the middle sector here. Here's the man from St. Petersburg. 4,000s up against Al Lahiri at the moment, so could yet pressurize Al Lahiri over this P1 spot. And Macedo's gone purple in the middle sector as well. Purple for Macedo in sector 2. So it's Weldon now towards the line. Can he seal away P1? No, time lost in that final sector. I did see that slight little bit of lock-up smoke. I wonder whether that might have caused a problem for Sebastian Weldon. But Macedo may have an answer. No, he doesn't. Loses time in the final sector. Here comes now Rahim Alabai to cross the line. He is currently down in 13th, will remain there. Rashid Al Lahiri crosses the line. He'll remain P1. The checkered flag is out. Can anyone improve? We've got green sectors from Yuki Sano. He's looking to arrive in late. Green up on his lap. It's 2nd place for the RHGP man. It's 1 and 2 again, much like the end of the race yesterday, but roles reversed between Ps 1 and 2. Of course, that does mean that Yuki Sano will join Olivieri on the 2nd row. Absolutely sensational. It's Rashid Al Dahiri, though, by the looks of it, folks. Fastest man on the racetrack. We do have a few other drivers improving. Kai Darianani, green in the first two sectors. Green for Rahim Alabai, Noah Lyle as well down the bottom. They're going to be chasing just an improved step. There's no purple laps as far as I can see. I think Rashid Al Dahiri is safe right now. Rino Francot also improving on this last lap. Francisco Macedo, who we're just watching, make his way around this circuit. Francot, the young Dutchman, looking to try and raise the stakes here in the closing stages with the checkered flag out. Can he impose on the top three? The likes of Macedo could be in trouble. No, fifth fastest for Rino Francot. Sebastian Weldon qualifying a little stronger than he did yesterday. Fourth in group. It will mean, though, that he starts P7 for the race this afternoon. But work to do, that is for sure. It's going to be a tantalising race, I have to say. Of course, Rashid Al Dahiri chasing a first main race win after taking the two solitary sprint races that we have had. We did, of course, have one cancelled back at Spa, but it is Rashid Al Dahiri, a stunning lap, a 1:37.639, who goes quickest of anybody. Yuki Sano in second, looking at our race, GP 1 and 2, with Francisco Macedo in third ahead of Sebastian Weldon, Rino Francot, Marcus Sater, Kabir Anurag, Zenri Chi, then Dion Gauda, Andrea Dupé, Alexandra Munoz, Maximilian Popov, then Rahim Alabai, Noah Lyle, and Kai Darianani down at the bottom. Of course, folks, we've got plenty of action to bring you later on this afternoon. It's a busy race day